Hi guys, my name is Camille Kuo. This tutorial is for intermediate artists who already knew basic object lighting and rendering. There's no real-time creation process, but multiple layers, explanation of how I achieve the result, and how to make the image better with some Photoshop tips. The best thing about this tutorial is that it does not require any special brush or a complicated filter adjustment, but just default Photoshop brush and the basic knowledge. So let's get started. Of course, we start from a new canvas, and I have this canvas at a 20 by 30 centimeter, 300 dpi. So first, lay down a basic background with lighting and color. It is the purpose of atmosphere. So in this case, I have the lighting coming from top to bottom to represent a feeling of tight environment or suffocating space with no escape. So before the whole creation, I already had in mind of what kind of stuff I'm going to create. So I got this simple ground shape from online, as well as those metal texture. You can visit sigitexture.com for free texture, or there are plenty other websites provides royalty-free images. I wanted to have some light coming from underneath because the floor now looks too dark, and in order to have futuristic feeling, you need lights. Artificial lights, and since it's in battleground, it will be dirt all over the place, or the sand, or the brick, and those things are painted with Photoshop default brushes, and it's like right here. Oh, I already selected. Oh, it's like this one, and you can adjust those features. You know, make it more interesting. Okay, now you're probably gonna scream or complain that why didn't I have step-by-step of creating this hero or spaceman? Well, you can watch my further coming tutorial, which includes step-by-step lighting of an object. So for this character, I had the general shape or a silhouette black down and a dark purple blue tone. By using selecting this brush, have your transfer click on, so it's softened when you draw in and out. So it's like this. The shape is gonna be like this. Give it a main source light from the top and reflection light from the bottom. By the way, don't forget the bloom light as well. At this stage, don't need to worry about perfect lighting or coloring, because those can be adjusted anytime later. All we need to do now is just laying down the base of painting. And you don't want everything in full detail, because it would only make the viewer dizzy and shift away the attention of the main focus, which is around the head. So detail it up and loosen it at the bottom. To enhance the detail, let's apply overall texture set in hard light overlay property, which is here. I just add more texture, make it more realistically. Well, it can be photo texture or just painted texture. To make it more dramatic, blood is definitely needed. Yes, I love blood, because it really spices things up. So make a new layer and set it to hard light. Well, the reason of don't paint or add blood with normal color is because blood is somewhat transparent. You don't want it to cover or affect the lighting information underneath. So that's like before and after. Okay, for the monster or the creature, it's same creating process as the character. Just block in big shape and form of silhouette using default brush and PAs. So always go from rough to detail. See, here's how rough is here right at the bottom and detail at the head, because that's where the light's shooting at. I also added some sweet tasty saliva, so the creature looks more nastier. Now I feel those kick-ass monsters are interrupting with our main hero character. I need to push them back into the background more in order to pop him out. So what I do is just duplicate the monster layer in case I mess up, or I need to go back to the original. Well, what you can do is just also adding a mask. Anyway, I just erased the part of the monster that I felt it should be blended back into the background, and bring down the opacity of the layer. Now you see my hero is popping out. Here I added some mist at the bottom to further distinguish them from the hero character, also give it a mood. Last but not least, add some particle texture effect. Again, this particle I created with this brush. Now I need a foreground composition to better indicate the main focus point. Composition would be like this. Create a triangle, which leads your focus point to him. Now we have our background, midground, and foreground objects ready. So it's time for overall lighting experiment. I wanted the dramatic lighting coming from the top, so I airbrushed in a light ray as well as some particle effects. Look at the small particles. Then I set a layer in linear dodge. In this case, you can freely choose whatever layer property that suits your image better by selecting it and hitting up and down arrow key, just to experiment everything out, like to see which one fits your image the best. Next, I added a dissolve particle effect and set layer property to overlay, because I want the polluted air quality. Dirty and dusty texture particle effect is one way to strengthen overall moods. The reason I don't set this layer in solid color is because dissolve effect will block information underneath. So I set it just trying to blend it into the whole image and be affected by the lighting. So if I set it to normal, it's gonna look, you can clearly see this particle like ants or the little bugs. So I set it to overlay, and it would smoothly, gradually just blend into the background. The ground looks too plain, so again, some blood is added and highlight property on the ground. The color of image is kind of flat and gray out, so adding a light blue color light to spice up the saturation. Set the layer property in soft light, but again, you can adjust it however it suits your image. The overall image is dull, so I flattened everything to one layer, tweaking and adding lighting and details. Also, I light up everything, because when applying overlay in the next step, it will darken everything. I'm adding overall lighting adjustment or enhancement or correction, or what you can say. This stage is a Photoshop tip that I commonly use for most of my works. All you need to do is holding Ctrl-Shift-Alt+E on the keyboard to create a new layer based on flattening everything you have to that layer. Then apply Gaussian blur from the filter menu, and then set the layer property to overlay and bring down the opacity, because overlay straightens colors and contrast between light and shadow, as well as color saturation and also the lighting, because I said in our overlay it's gonna be exposed. So see, that's before and that's after. See how much change it has? Final touch up, adding more texture to the lightest and darkest area. I also didn't like the shape of the head and blade that I did before, so I fixed them. I light up part of the image in level adjustment by Ctrl L. So here's the final lighting adjustment. The focus needs to be centered even more, so create a new layer and set it to soft light. Well, again, you can use however layer property you want. Then repeat the step of Gaussian blur before, and also bring down the color saturation to fully gray, because here I only want the lighting, and that's before, that's after. And yeah, the reason that I use overlay layer with blurred images is because to balance out overall lighting, it's easier for eyes to read. Okay, now we're ready for a very final rub-off. It's actually a detail adjustment. So again, Ctrl-Shift-Alt-E. That will give you a new layer which flatten everything. Then just go to Filter, Others, High Pass. And then look, you should adjust to just slightly and hit OK. And then set the layer property to let's say still overlay. I love overlay. And also you can adjust the opacity again. The reason that I don't use sharpen tool in the filter is because I don't like it. The sharpen tool will too easily to create noise, but this way I use, which is widely used by the 3D textures, it will sharpen your thing without giving you too much amount of noise. So that's the final image. Enjoy!